Breaking news. This to me is the best information and update from the developers that we've gotten in the first 2 weeks of Suicide Squad's Kill the Justice League. And I'm going to be giving you guys the news. They dropped their weekly developer update. And this is a big article with a lot of information, very key stuff. They talk about why they did small fixes for balancing and the reasonings behind that. They explained the leaderboards and changes. They talked about Prometheum and how they're going to change the loop on that. They addressed the big community concern about the mutators balancing, and Boom and Affliction specifically are the main two. And they even gave us a question about lower tier legendary items. A lot of stuff to uncover. We're going to get into it right now. I want to take a moment and let you guys just see this article for yourself. I do have it in the description, as well as the Discord and some Twitter information that I have collected, let's just say. So make sure you go ahead and lock into that if you want to read it. But I will do a simpler broken down version so you guys won't have to read every single detail on there. Okay. So we're going to start off hot and heavy. And I just want to say something that the developers talked about. I feel very strongly that this was absolutely needed to talk about when it comes to what they're doing. They said the end game bug fixes and balances. Okay. Let's talk about that. And they basically said that balancing is something that the design team can do without having to do any code support or anything to do with the servers. And that is why login issues or server issues can't be addressed by the actual designers. So that's a separate team, and that will take a lot more work. So they're not going to just focus solely on that. If they can fix other things while the other team is working on different aspects of it, that's what they want to do. And that's what they're going to do to provide everybody with at least some kind of actual content. And I love that. I thought, hey, we need it. Why not? Okay. So that was just a big deal. And they break it down deeper. I just want to give you the summary. Outside of that, the biggest news and the main reason I would say this is the most important is the mutator conversation. And it's a big one, guys, for me and for everybody. Personally, I love what the game is doing when it comes to changing your playstyle by having the mutators and the variations that are pretty awesome, in my opinion. And I want to showcase the Elseworlds right now and the ones that they have. The first two that we're going to talk about, that the devs talked about, that the community really wanted to change, was Boom, where enemies explode when they die, and that would hurt you or any enemy nearby. It's nice when it kills an enemy. It's not good when it kills you. And you were using the actual executions. Let's say you had Shark or whoever you would play with, any character up close. Very difficult to execute your abilities when it comes to the suicide strike or anything like that. So you were very careful not to do them. It would limit your playstyle. You don't want that. So they are working on something to change it. And the idea, and as far as the possibility, considering suicide strikes and shield harvesting not affecting the Boom mutator. And what that means is if you do a suicide strike and you're up close with Shark or something, you don't have to worry because it will not explode. So that is very cool. And this is something that they're considering. Nothing is confirmed on when or how they're going to do these changes. Looks like that'll be coming in at some point, but they want to hear what we think. So in the comments, go ahead and leave some stuff. I'm sure the devs tend to watch this here and there, hopefully. But also go to the Discord, go to their Twitter, share that information. They're very active. So this is important. And to kind of stay on this topic, I don't want to, bore you guys too much with the logistics of it. But right here, it says affliction immunity. If you guys know what that is, it's basically the enemies will, from the very start of the mission, end up only getting able to critical hit to remove the immunity. So you have to do a critical hit. And I don't think that that's bad, but I also do understand that, hey, we want to be able to have a more free flow with that. So they are trying to see how they go about it. And the exact wording is pretty simple. So any damage basically taken can remove the immunity. So that is a very cool thing. Personally, I think that's great. And that's going to make it easier for players. And these two changes alone, to me, is what makes this update so important and the most valuable when it comes to your playstyle. If you've played in the higher difficulties and it's really tough. I have a second account that I play with a friend of mine's. He's up in the hundreds, and I had a tough time with the immunity and the boom. It really made me play a specific way. Instead of playing carefree in my own playstyle, I had to stick to what they were doing there. And I'm okay with changing. And to talk about changing, there's one that I've always felt like needed some changing, and I'm going to showcase it here. The leeching bullets. The reason why I love leeching bullets to a certain extent, but I also think it wasn't a smart one to put for this first incursion when it comes to the crisis, because you think about it, the Venom is the first tier set as far as gear set when it comes to infamy sets, and it's all about craving an enemy, making them fight each other. And with this leeching bullets, it makes all the enemies basically heal themselves. So I didn't like that, but I understand that in the long run, when we have a bunch of different infamy sets, it's not going to matter as much. But I just thought that for the start of this, and that's just me, leave it in the comments if you agree or disagree. I get it. Not everybody cares about the Venom set. I love them. I think it's a fun way to play. And yeah. Okay, so back to the article, because those are the top pieces of information I want you guys to kind of cement into your head. And the reason why is because we complained about them. We talked about it in the Discord. We talked about it on Twitter, on my YouTube channels. You can go to the comments and see everybody kind of discussing this. And I said, I love the versatility that the game is making us play with, right? Different play styles. But the devs are listening, and they changed something drastically in the near future with that right there. And I think that is such a cool change. Okay, with that out of the way, now we go down the rabbit hole of some other changes that I think is very cool. So changing the Prometheum game loop. They talked in depth about wanting to change it, understanding that people need different ways to grind, better ways, and they're just considering what they could do and how they can go about it. And one of the key points that I want to kind of make sure I stress on this, which is the most important, is all about raising hell. And I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the website. You can see that for yourself. And it says right here, raising hell will reward 3,000 Prometheum for completing one tier 1, I'm sorry. And then each of them will increase the Prometheum. All right. So that is a very cool feature. And depending on, what else changes they can have, this is a cool one. And I do think that we should all band together to create different ways and talk to them about what they could do and how they can change this, because it's about us, right? And it's about what we like and what we want to do and what we feel is best, let's just say. Okay. So for me, have a discussion in the different platforms and tell them how you feel about it. Okay. That's just how I like to go about things personally. And I actually am super excited about this, because they kind of talked about like the end game and wanting to make it more interesting for us when it comes to the end game loop. You got to grind, get the best gear, get the best items. And so this is important. I will add my idea of something cool, which is through the story, getting Prometheum through the story, replaying the story for top tier gear drops, doing mastery levels in the story as well. You can keep going up the ranks through that. I think that would be amazing end game, personally. It's a big ask because they have to really redo the whole story with different mods and all that cool stuff that we have in the Elseworlds. But I don't know. That's just my take. I'm gonna have to do a second video about this for you guys, so make sure you look out for that one. Okay, now getting deeper down the rabbit hole, which they addressed the patches and leaderboard update. We already heard about this on my last video, but they went into deeper conversations to kind of help the community understand how they're loving the fact that the community broke the game and they figured out a bunch of things, and that helps them balance the game. Now, they had to retroactively take the leaderboards for the OG villains, which is such a cool thing to have, right? And so shout out to all those who made it in there. And I was on the leaderboards world #1 in multiple different areas at some different points, but it's so hard to stay up there. But props to them for that. And I thought that was cool. And then last but not least, this is the big one. And I want people to really get into these type of topics. And you guys know how I do. The videos I make and the builds I make are not just the standard ones, right? I'm not here to just give you meta only. Of course, I'm going to give you guys all the cool meta builds, but I actually really like having fun and trying weird new things that nobody's ever tried, experimenting and testing out new versions of builds that nobody's ever done that can work well. And I tend to do that a lot. And so now they're asking about lower tier items, and please name some in the comments. What legendary items that you think could get a buff, or maybe a combination? For example, I personally feel like legendary gear, I'm not trying to make them into infamy sets, but I do feel like they should have a buff where if you put 2 specific things, you can help amplify the ability in a different way, and not just make it so that the devs put more damage or more survivability with an update, but that we can combine different pieces, just like infamy sets, in a way, in a new and different way. But that's my take on that, which we'll get into in a separate video about what I feel. That being said, the most important thing that I want out of this video for you guys, and you're watching me play with no HUD, it's kind of like my new thing, challenge, something I really like to try. High level incursions with no HUD. But with the main thing that I want to take away from this is that you guys' feedback has been addressed. A lot of people came into my comments thinking that I have an answer, which I don't. I only give you guys the information that is given to me through the developers, that's public, and any information I researched during the game. And I appreciate y'all asking me. But this weekly update is so critical because now I can answer questions in my comments and help you guys whenever you guys don't really want to go read 10,000 pages of information. I'll read it. I'll have the information. We could talk about it on stream in my comments and get into this deeper, just because you did your job to be a good community member with me and have a good time conversating, getting into the game and all of that good stuff. It's very exciting. And so even though I'm not sure if the devs are watching or not, I got to give them love and appreciation. And we're going to take a moment and actually look at the devs communicating. I have them on my notifications for my Twitter, and I want to present that to you guys here as we go forward. So on here, you're looking at Axel. Axel is the game dev, and I want to go into it deeper. You can just look at his page, and he's been replying, interacting, asking questions. What type of new things do you guys want in the game? You know, looking at ideas, replying to ideas. And it's been really nice to see him do this. It's necessary for us, specifically a guy like me who really goes deep down the rabbit hole. So as you can see here, they're asking questions about what do you feel about what the changes we're thinking about making and that we're gonna make, and sharing that information. Different guys. Of course, I want to give a shout out to Derek Brown, I believe is his name on here. And then Kane. These two guys are the community managers, and they're in here as well on Twitter. And I'm not here to tell you to go spam them, but you can keep up with the stuff that I'm keeping up with right here on Twitter/x.com, whatever platform you want to call it. So it's very awesome. And I think we should all group up to give feedback. Guess what? Your voice is heard already. I can confirm that from those changes. And now there's still a lot of stuff we need, right? And we want and that we love. So let's keep that going. Support the game, support the community, support the devs, and support yourself by getting involved. All right. Leave me a comment with your thoughts and opinions on this. All right. We appreciate you guys for coming through, and go ahead and watch that next one because it's going to be good, talking about my thoughts on what should come for Endgame. All right. See you there. Peace.